Hi, I'm Bo from Canton Fire Department HazMat Station 76, introducing you to the new HazMat sampling kit. This replaces the old bin-style sampling kit. The process remains relatively unchanged, but the format of how things are stored is a little bit different. So I'll go through the new kit and the slight changes in the process, and we'll roll these out eventually. So inside the new kit's in a Pelican style box now. It's smaller. The old kit packaged the supplies you need for each type of sample independently in independent bags. The new kit lays out each of the components of all samples so that they're easier to get to. There was complaint that it was difficult to find individual items in the bag, so this hopefully accommodates that. You see we have the same large bags, same small bags, tweezers, glass vials, plastic droppers, plastic spoons, some scalpels, trauma shears. There are a couple new additions. One of the new additions is a beaker. I'll explain in a minute what that's for. There's a large turkey baster. The head for the turkey baster lives inside the beaker. The tube for the turkey baster lives up here on the lid. There's also some watch glasses. And again, I'll talk about what all that's for. All this stuff for evidentiary samples lives in a plastic bag in the lid. Also, you have laminated cards. One is an inventory list, and one of them is the sampling procedures chart. There used to be two different sampling procedures charts, one for evidentiary and one for public safety. It's all been combined into one big, easier to read one now. Anything that's for evidence will have a special highlighted in blue step. So if you're doing something for the cops, add the blue steps. If you're not, don't. The labels, the sampling labels are similar to the old labels with some slight changes, and they've been professionally printed so that they're much easier to read. Still a checkbox format, so they're easy and quick to fill out. So stepping into the process, as I said, the process is pretty much the same as it was before. We'll still start everything with a pre-screen. One difference now is that whereas before we were just using the Canberras as our radiation pre-screen, we'll now use the Ludlam with a pancake probe. That allows us to check for alpha and beta particles before we were only limited to checking for gamma. And instead of whereas before we were using the Ki paper to test for explosives, now we're going to do the full plexus explosives test for every sample before we sample it. Outside of that, the steps are exactly the same as they were before. Please review the new format. It should be easier to read, easier to use. The new pieces, as I mentioned, based on some feedback throughout the zone, a couple watch glasses, a beaker, and a turkey baster. The reason for the turkey baster is if we have some larger volume samples, like for example this is in a 5-gallon bucket, this allows us to reach down in there and get some sample to draw out. So in this instance, we've got two different layers of liquid. There's kind of an oily layer floating on top of a lighter liquid on the bottom. So using the turkey baster, what we'll try to do is draw off some of what's on the top. And then we'll use this beaker as an intermediary. Now we have the two watch glasses here where we're going to try to separate the oily sample from the liquid sample, and then each layer is going to be an independent sample for us, which means we'll independently pre-screen it, we'll independently package it in its glass vial or plastic bottle. So this is really two different samples, and this allows us to separate those samples into each of their individual components. So within here I can more easily draw some of the oily product. This will be my oily sample. Then I can go down to the bottom, draw off some of the liquid. And you can see that this is oily and this is clear. So I've pretty effectively drawn out two independent samples from each. So again, I'll do the full scale pre-screen on each of those independently. If anything comes back as explosive, I'll leave. Each one of these will be an independent sample in an independent container with an independent sampling label. So at the top you've got sample blank of blank, so we'll talk about 1 of 2, 2 of 2. Okay? So that's essentially the difference. Kent Station 7.6 has this new version kit. If anyone else in the zone is interested in putting together an identical kit, I can supply you with the specs and the materials you need to do that. Everything that's in this kit is in this kit with the exception of the turkey baster and the beaker, so and the watch glasses. So if you just get those 3 items and put it in your existing kit, you can follow the same procedures. I can provide the graphics for the new lists and the new check sheets. So you can still do everything that you need to do with your old kit. If you want to go to the new style kit, I can give you the specs for that. Kent will start using this immediately. Any questions, contact Station 7.6 HazMat.